I just want to freshly tackle this with you, this moment in America and where we go from here.
It's a profound moment. I keep thinking about an image I saw years ago of Lady Liberty shedding a tear because we're hurting. The country's hurting right now. Axios writes that conservatives are now plotting revenge. Here's the way Mike Allen writes it over at Axios. A profound sense of rage and an insatiable thirst for revenge is permeating virtually every corner of the Republican Party following former President Trump's historic conviction. Now, I've been thinking a lot about that, how we're going to react collectively. It's not a leap. It's not a stretch to just try to think of the nightmare scenario of what would be happening in the streets of America if this had happened to Barack Obama.
Got there, right?
Consider for a moment what people did after George Floyd died. Now, here's the good news. We're not going to riot.
No,
we're not going to burn any.
We have jobs.
Well, not only that, but we're not going to burn any buildings down. We're not going to hurt people. Nope. There's going to be a quiet riot, and it's going to be November the 5th. I mean, we're already seeing incredible signs. Awesome. The Trump fundraising machine website crashed because of so many donations. I'm seeing people online, wealthy people, billionaires are all in. Wait till you see the next round of polling that comes out after this conviction. You wait and see. I mean, it's an awful nightmare and a historically dark chapter in America's history, but we have more power at the ballot box than a million Judge Mershans.
Correct. And we can deliver a verdict on November 5th with a finality and force that no appeals court can match. The appeal's going to work out fine. I really do feel strongly about that. But this now becomes a moral necessity to deliver the message and make these people cry again. And I say that somewhat satirically because it's not revenge. It's not a shallow, dark reaction. We have a sense of righteous indignation that something wrong has happened and we're going to make it right. Not to make people suffer that we don't like, but to make a country better that we love. That's what drives me. That's what I think is going to drive the Trump victory.
I want to play a clip for you, my friend, somebody whose orbit we were both in. You were his guest host on a number of occasions. You were introduced nationally by way of the Rush Limbaugh show. As a guy from Dayton, Ohio, when I got hired at WABC Radio in New York City to do the morning show, I recognized I'm going to be down the hall from a guy that is the giant of our industry, the guy who we all owe our jobs to. Shortly before he died, he had a little 1-minute monologue about yesterday. This is almost from the grave. This is a posthumous message from the late, great Rush Limbaugh that I believe applies to yesterday's travesty of justice perfectly.
I know they desperately want Trump gone, and I know that they desperately want it codified, that Trump cannot run again, because make no mistake, they remain scared to death of you, and they remain scared to death of Trump. Trump, 75 million, 80 million votes. And I'm going to tell you, you're not going anywhere. Even if Trump does, you're not. They can't separate you from Trump. And more importantly, they can't separate you from the ideas. They can't separate you from MAGA. They can't separate you from Make America Great Again, which I think remains one of our big campaign strengths going forward. They believe that they can destroy this bond that exists between you and Trump if they somehow make Trump look bad, make Trump look like a reprobate, embarrass you about Trump. They can't do it because you came before Trump.
Mark, how beautiful is that?
Oh, Mike, I can see cars pulling over.
We're not going anywhere.
No, we're not. Rush passed on February 17th of 2021, and I think about him constantly and what Rush shows would sound like, and they would sound exactly like that. So thank you for giving us the next best thing. Also, the next best thing is guys like you and me. where we can say, look, let's don't get mad, get even, which is not in some kind of street mafioso sense, but when wrong things are happening, we rise up again with that righteous indignation that I mentioned earlier to make things right, because the country must be better than this. Our system must be better than this. We cannot let this prevail. And so, just fresh off our chat with Andy McCarthy, we went to one political place amid all the legal, and that is that this November 5th election at the presidential level will be determined by one math problem. There are already millions of people baked in for Biden, millions of people baked in for Trump, always have been, always will be. In the middle, I don't necessarily mean the ideologically mushy middle of somebody flipping a coin and going, Biden, Trump, but which is the larger motivating force? The number of voters who are now kind of going, ooh, that's icky at the notion of a felony conviction, can't vote for a felon, and I guess those people exist, or the other number, and that is people who are sort of sitting on the fence, maybe just not as ideological as you or me, but they see this, they sense that it's wrong, and they say, I'm not going to let this stand, and they become Trump voters. What do you think?
Oh, I don't think you can even begin to calculate the amount of rage and anger that Americans are having over this, and we need to be paying attention to the people spiking the football, the never Trumpers who are sitting back smirking, thinking that they finally got him. They're wrong, and they're gonna pay a heavy price in terms of their reputation. They're gonna pay a heavy price in terms of their credibility. I mean, we people say things like, well, when do we fight fire with fire? How do we get revenge? Trump said it perfectly a couple of weeks ago. Yep. Revenge comes November the 5th.
Right. The election is your retribution. And he means that. It's not, because, and I'll say it 5 times, I'm sorry, that it's not driven by revenge or retribution. It is when something is wrong, it needs to be made right. And we have the power to make something right. Not just legally and in terms of messaging, but in our country.
Somebody posted on social media, the Clintons, 0 charges or trials. Hunter Biden, 0 charges, trials. Anthony Fauci, 0 charges or trials. Epstein clients, 0 charges or trials. COVID criminals, 0 charges or trials. DC war criminals, 0 charges or trials. And here we are now. They took an expired misdemeanor, a misdemeanor that literally expired due to the statute of limitations, and twisted it into 39 felony counts, and 12 New York jurors turned that into a guilty conviction of all 39 counts. And I'm fascinated by where they go from here. What do these jurors do now? Are they heroes? Do they write books?
Well, sure.
Are they going to make the rounds?
And it's fun. Some of the commentary was, we need to protect this jury. We need to make sure that there are, no horrible MAGA terrorists are going to go slash their tires or slit their throats. That's our side doesn't do that. We spent all the day yesterday talking about it may well be that 1 or 2 people wanted to step into the breach, wanted to step into the strike zone and stop this nonsense, but they knew their lives would be ruined by the left, by the media, by Biden voters who just would never let go. They'd have to move to Finland, if not farther.
So their lives aren't ruined by upending an election, trying to try to destroy.
Who's going to ruin them?
Like
they are absolute heroes. They are now Democrat activists. They are part of the. They presumably were probably all Biden voters, so they'll be as disappointed as the rest of the Biden voters will be, God willing, on the morning of November 6th. But no, these folks, some of them may have MSNBC shows of their own.
I wonder if they go look now, and now that they are supposedly free to not be blind to the media coverage. What if they'll now look and see what the extent of their travesty? I wonder if they'll be able to see. I wonder if 2 of them were lawyers. I wonder if the lawyers will now pour over everything that has been written, including Marshawn's refusal to allow the election interference expert on this. What was his name? Brad Smith. Brad Smith. Mm-hmm. He was precluded from testifying. Remember, Alvin Bragg bragged yesterday that this was about election interference, which they don't have any purview over on a state level. So on the federal level, Brad Smith would have gone in and very succinctly and clearly explained, this isn't possible. You don't have an election violation charge here, but Marshawn blocked Brad Smith from testifying. Will those 2 lawyers look at that and say, we might have seen this differently if we'd have heard from him.
I'm going to guess not, because, again, lawyer is a meaningless term. You and I talked about this on the way to this verdict, that surely the lawyers, with their familiarity with process, would recognize that the process lies in wreckage in this sham of a trial. Barack Obama is a constitutional lawyer. I rest my case. Having invoked Judge Mershon in chatting with Andy a moment ago, you and I have said, and everybody says, no way he gets sentenced to prison. No way he gets sentenced to prison. There's no way he goes to prison. But because a jail sentence would probably be instantly appealed and remain on pause until the appeal happens, I now consider it a non-zero chance that Mershon absolutely sentences Trump to prison on July 11th, knowing he won't go.
You understand that July 11th is 4 days before the Republican National Convention.
Yes. How do you think that's going to work out?
You think that's an accident? You think that's an accident?
I don't. Probably not. And what are they thinking? Are they thinking, oh, this will damage him horribly going into Milwaukee for the convention? Are you kidding? They're going to need to hold the convention at Lambeau Field now. I was not kidding when I said Texas Motor Speedway ought to get with Trump's people today to put 400,000 people, because you got to count the infield, in there for a Trump rally, because they could fill it. So be careful what you wish for, kids.
I'm usually not great on predictions. Sadly, I was right about this one, because as longtime listeners know, and as you know, I said this many months ago, a conviction is coming. I'm going to make another prediction that breaks my heart and puts a hole in my soul. Yeah. I think Trump's going to be incarcerated. I think they're going to give him some level of incarceration. It might be home confinement. Yeah. It might, but they're going to say, if they're going to run with this, they're going to own this and say nobody's above the law, yada yada yada. You wait and see. On July 11th, 4 days before the RNC, which will be attending, incidentally, in Milwaukee. Boy, that's going to be lit. I guarantee you, I promise you, I predict, there will be some level of incarceration headed towards Donald Trump.
It may be invoked by the judge. That may be his sentence delivered, but I think the appeal button will pause it, and he will not actually, we'll bet a cup of coffee on this, that it will not actually kick in, that he will not be actually. He's got Secret Service, because what usually the ankle bracelet. What's the ankle bracelet? That's for people who are afraid you're going to run. You're a flight risk. The only place Trump is going to fly is to Michigan to do a campaign rally.
Mark,
so
they just convicted
I know.
the guy.
I'm agreeing with you that the sentence may happen. The sentence may happen, but it will not take effect.
House arrest. You wait and see. House arrest. They're gonna brag about this, and they're gonna say, look what we did. I hope and pray I'm wrong.
But again, to complete your prediction, you actually think not only will house arrest be delivered, but that it will not be paused, that he will actually be technically confined by it for the days to follow.
Yes.
That's your prediction? Okay.
I do.
Right.
Yep.
I don't think
and again, I hope and pray I'm wrong.
Cup of coffee.
But then again, I hope and prayed I was wrong about him being convicted yesterday, and I was right. So
I hope and pray. I hope and pray we're right. I hope and pray we are right. I don't want to speak for you, but if we got 4 months and a handful of days, if this election were today, it would be a landslide for the ages. It would be a Johnson, Goldwater, Reagan, Mondale style landslide if it were today. Keep that feeling alive. Keep that righteous indignation alive. The Court of Public Appeals will deliver its verdict on November 5th, and I like our chances.
I like Rush said, we're not going anywhere. And speaking of not going anywhere, hey, you want to end this awful week on a spiritual note? I have a prediction that people are going to want to do a little bit of the Lord's work and bless some people on the final day of our prison fellowship campaign.
What might come to mind? What can folks do to channel that good feeling?
I think people could sponsor a child and send them to a Christian summer camp for a week. This is the last day of our prison fellowship Angel Tree Camp campaign, and Mark Davis listeners have been the most generous of all. If you go to MikeOnline.com right now, guess what? We're at 777 children sponsored. It costs $200 to send the son or daughter of an American prisoner to a Christ-centered summer camp. Good triumphs over evil. If you're feeling down today, if you're feeling a little blah, if you're feeling anxious, do the Lord's work. Go to MikeOnline.com, click on that Angel Tree banner at the top of the page. I'll bet we hit 1,000 kids today, Mark. You
I
wait
bet we
and see.
will. Let's
All
be
right.
a force for good. We talk about making a better country. This makes a better country immediately by helping out a kid in this way. We've been so
And
proud to
saves
have
their
you back
souls.
on this.
Hey,
I'm so
me
proud
too.
of you. I love you
Hang
so
in there.
much,
Love
and I
you
can't
too.
wait
See you
for your
Monday.
show.
We'll
This
get
is-
through this, my friend. We're going to get
we are
through all
made.
this.
We are made for moments like this. That's
You
Mike
bet we are.
Gallagher and his actual show. Don't ever miss it. Starts at 10 on 660 AM. The Answer.